Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Randy Lopez, Board President, and I am officially calling this meeting to order. It is Tuesday, April 13th, 5:13 p.m. Sorry for the delay, everyone. Just getting a few technical things taken care of. I will remind folks, if you are in the boardroom and you have your laptop up, please make sure you are muted so we have no feedback. Thank you. And I want to welcome everybody that is joining us this afternoon. Thank you for being with us, to our board members, our Dr. Miguel, Mr. Goheen, and all of our staff. Thank you for joining us, and those in attendance via Zoom and watching us on YouTube. Welcome, and thank you for joining us. So before we start, I will read our board norms and protocols as we do at every meeting. As a board, we agree to respect the differences of opinions in making decisions for the district, to follow best practices in managing the superintendent and the management of the board itself, to stay on task when conducting business of the district, including while at board meetings, to never surprise the superintendent or each other when conducting official business of the district, to read these norms at the beginning of each board meeting and at board workshops as a reminder of how to conduct our meetings, and to continually self-check to determine if we are following our norms when conducting district business. So thank you again. And with that, Ms. Smith, would you please do a roll call?
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, present.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, present.
Janie Humphries,
Janie Humphries, present.
Randy Lopez,
Randy Lopez, present.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, present.
Dr. Nguyen,
Dr. Nguyen, present.
and Dr. Yeager.
Dr. Yeager, present.
Thank you.
Would now take a motion to approve tonight's regular agenda.
So moved.
I seconded.
Moved and seconded. Ms. Smith, please.
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Janie, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Dr. Nguyen,
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
and Dr. Yeager.
Yes.
Great. Thank you, everybody. So we will now continue on with our agenda and our community comment. Just a reminder for our community out there watching, anyone and everyone is welcome to submit comment. Please contact our board clerk, Ms. Leslie Smith, and you can contact her via phone or email her your comments, and they should be submitted by noon the day before the Monday before the board meeting in order to get everything up and ready. So please contact Ms. Smith if you do have a community comment to submit.
Good morning, KCKPS Board of Education. I am writing with regard to the current superintendent search. During the town halls and community input period that took place in December and early January 2021, it was shared multiple times that the community and staff would like to be involved in this process. The response from the board and JG Consulting was that there will be updates provided along the way, as well as surveys and virtual meetings. So let's recap what the community had the opportunity to hear if they watched the board meetings. On January 12th, during the BOE meeting, the following outline schedule was agreed on. January 22nd, finalized leadership profile. January 23rd, application opens. February 22nd, application closes. March 5th and 6th, review candidates. On January 22nd, during the BOE meeting, the following additional outline schedule was agreed on. March 26th and 27th, round 1 interviews. April 9th, 10th, round 2, and final interviews, April 9th and 10th, round 2, final interviews, and April 13th, name long finalists. It was also noted during the meeting on January 22nd by Board President Lopez that the board, as well as the JG Consulting, should identify creative ways for the community to be involved in the process. To say the least, I was extremely disappointed in the firm's response. A Google document with questions that the community has no way of knowing if they were asked is not engagement, nor was the document ever published on the district website page. On January 26th, there were 4 completed applications as reported by Guerrera. On February 9th, there were 10 completed applications with 8 states represented and 2 weeks remaining for the applications to be submitted. On February 23rd, No team members from JG were present for the update, but reported 21 applications submitted. On March 9th, no team members from JG were present, and no real-time update on the process. It's now April 12th, 11 a.m., and I can't find the superintendent search information page on the website. There looks to be no update to be provided on the 4/13 agenda. There has been no publicity regarding the announcement, and I'm frustrated. The community asked for transparency and communication during this process, and that request seems to be ignored, to be frank. It's been a rough year for all of us, but to ask for community feedback and do nothing with it is not okay. The last firm was able to provide us, the community, an opportunity to engage with the last two candidates. Why is this firm so against community involvement? Why have the promises to keep the superintendent page updated gone unmet? How does the school board build its transparency and communication with the community? Sincerely, Rachel Russell. Dear District 500 School Board, as a concerned citizen and member of the Argentine community, I am writing this letter because of the safety of our children and families of our district. I'm a lifelong citizen of the Argentine community and live near the Emerson Elementary School. Many families in our neighborhood utilize the Emerson Elementary playground. In the past few months, the playground has become unsafe for our children to play on. From Monday to Friday, between the hours of 5 p.m. and 9 p.m., including weekends as well. The playground is a parking lot. The school district has put up signs that say no parking, cars will be towed. It is no doubt that these cars that park on the playground are members of the Metro Fitness Center located at the Argentine Community Center. Many of these individuals have no regard and constantly drive in and out recklessly, making the playground unsafe. I called Emerson Elementary School and spoke to the secretary and vice principal. I was informed that no one had permission to use the playground. The fitness center owner stated that he did not have permission from the school to park on the playground. I would like for the school board to check into this matter. Our families deserve an area where they can play safely. The playground should be utilized as such and not as a parking lot. A clear statement from the school board should be made on this matter. Thank you for your time as schools reopen and we strive to make all schools safe. Concerned community member.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. And we will, as noted previously by Dr. Miguel, we will have staff follow up with those community comments. So thank you, Ms. Russell, for submitting comments. We will move on with our agenda, and Dr. Miguel.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez, and we have lots of good news, so I'm going to get right to it. As you know, we had the reopening of schools in person, so wanted to share we had a very smooth and successful reopening of schools. Big shout out to principals, all the school staff, the supporting teams in the district, operations, nutritional services, bus drivers, everybody who helped schools have a smooth and very safe reentry. Very proud of the staff. It was very exciting to see kids in schools, the teachers who got very emotional seeing their students. It was all good news, and we were so excited to have students in person. So I have asked Ms. Scott to come and share with us some of the highlights of our reopening. Thank you, Ms. Scott.
Good evening, Mr. President, Madam Vice President, Dr. Miguel, and board members. We, as the IIOs, wanted to briefly update you on the reentry of students on March 31st. As you know, we've come before you each board meeting to provide an update on preparations for that very day. And we are happy to report that all of the hard work and diligence paid off. As Dr. Miguel said, we have many thanks to our principals, our teachers, campus support personnel such as our custodial staff, secretaries, nutritional service staff, our operations team, and all other central office staff who worked through all of the challenges faced with this preparation. The team effort made for one of the most successful first days of school that I've ever been a part of in Kansas City, Kansas. And without giving the years, it's been a long time. We believe at the heart of this, besides the tireless preparation, were the relationships that were already developed with our students and our families. Even our youngest learners came in knowing their teachers and peers, which made for that smooth transition for student learning. We also want to mention that all of the social mitigation were in place. Students are wearing masks, practicing social distancing, lots of practicing of routines and procedures to ensure that our students and staff are safe. I personally had the pleasure of visiting middle school campuses to see all of the wonderful first day of school happenings, and it was, again, one of the smoothest first days I've ever experienced. And I do speak on behalf of my colleagues, the other IIOs who've also visited their campuses, and they all report a great first day of school.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Scott, for that update. And we have Dr. Peach now to give us a little bit of view of the preliminary preparations for senior year celebrations. We're giving it that name because it's not going to be the traditional prom that we're used to, so we don't want to call it prom. We don't want to create expectations that will not happen. We know we still need to mitigate and take all possible precautions, but we know how special senior year is, and we don't want to take the celebration away from students. So these are preliminary plans, but I think we are in a place where we can start sharing a little bit of what schools are planning. Dr. Pitch.
Thank you, Dr. Miguel. If it pleases the board, I would like to briefly share an update regarding the preparations our high schools are making to celebrate their seniors during these last few weeks of their final year. Currently, each campus has reported their efforts to poll their senior students, collect ideas, and build their respective plans for the celebration of their senior class. While these events are an important experience for our students to enjoy, they may differ from traditional events historically held during the spring due to COVID safety restrictions. In short, each campus will determine how to celebrate with input from the students, and parents should expect to receive communication from their principal outlining the event being held by their school to celebrate the senior class in the next few days. Thank you very much for the opportunity to share.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pitch. And as schools finalize their plans, we will bring updates and keep you all posted. Now we have more celebrations. You know, we want to highlight our wonderful students. And as a teacher, I consider myself still a teacher, we want to show you pictures because then you will know who we're talking about and it will make a bigger impact. So the first picture that we have, are we ready? As they prepare, I want to share with you, for the first time in 16 years, Kansas City, Kansas Public Schools was represented at the Sunflower State Spelling Bee, which is all part of the Scripps National Spelling Bee. I think we're getting there. And not only that, but we placed in the top 10 thanks to our Rosedale Middle School student, Ria Ahir. And there we see her. Congratulations, Ria, you make us so proud. She placed first in the Wyandotte County Spelling Bee to move on to the state competition, where she placed 7th out of 28. Way to go, Ria. So proud of you. You make us all very proud. The next celebration we have is, you may remember us talking about Nimara Freeman winning a full ride scholarship to Wichita State a few weeks ago. Well, that wasn't enough for the family, so now her sister, Kimora, has done the same. She was named a RAD Foundation recipient, and currently she plans to attend Wichita State, majoring in economics with a minor in Spanish. So proud of both things, but very excited about the Spanish, Kimora. Congratulations to the family on both, on the accomplishments of both daughters. Here we have some soccer students, and we all know that COVID has limited the number of sports scholarships that colleges are offering this year. But some good news for two of our Sumner students, seniors Julio Coronado Mascorro on the left and Victor Monterrosa on the right. They signed their letter of intent to play soccer at Ottawa University. Felicitaciones, Julio y Victor. Excelente. And now more sports. We have Ms. Romstad here to share with us and then show us a short video.
Good evening, President Lopez, Dr. Miguel, and board members. I'm here today to talk about recognizing the KCAL athletes that were recognized for their winter sports. Typically at this time, we'd have a room of kids lined up.
Oh, and they
bringing them
walk
in,
around,
And we
right.
would do the recognition that way. Today, we have a nice little video, and special thanks to the communications team for helping us put that together. But I also wanted, before we started that video, just to kind of remind you, first of all, can't tell you how proud I am of the athletic directors and the amount of hours they spent preparing, planning, mitigating the student athletes, the coaches for coming back. It was not just a different year, but our athletes this year, their day started with being at home, busing or driving in for practice, questioning, doing the questionnaire, doing temperature checks, washing hands, sanitizing, keeping masks on. Typically in a practice, especially if there's a water break, you're all kind of around each other and you're sharing your day and what happened at school. This year we were get a drink, stay spread out, talk at a distance. And, the kids did such a good job. They wanted to be out there so bad that they put it together. So what we want to do right now is recognize KCAL and the student athletes this winter.
Thank you so much. That's all, Ms. Ramsden. Thank you so much. We have such amazing students. These students worked and practiced and persisted through the pandemic, and now they are honored with all of these accomplishments. I cannot say enough how proud I am of the students, of the staff that worked with them. And we started by sharing everything the adults had done to prepare for the reentry and how smoothly it went. Then I shared the accomplishments of some of our of some of our students. We want to remind you that the next Enough is Enough community forum will be this Thursday, April 15th, and there is still time to sign up, and that is where we ask the community, parents, teachers, anyone who is interested in learning more about this initiative and how we can protect our kids and how we can make the community a safer place. Please join us on Thursday, April 15th. There is still time to sign up, and you can do it by visiting enough.kckps.org. We really look forward to having the conversation about change and building a safe space for our students. So please join us. Like I was saying, we started with the adults, we went to the kids, and now I want to brag a little bit more about the work that some of our adults are doing in the district and how the state is recognizing the hard work and the quality work that we're doing. So today we had a group of staff members representing 2 schools and the Student Services Department. They presented at the Kansas State Board of Education via Zoom, and we had the 2 schools represented were Schlegel High and Fairfax Learning Center, and they shared the work that we're doing in the district around implementing restorative practice and trauma-sensitive and resilient schools. The presenters were Lisa Garcia and Octavio Estrella from Student Services, 2 principals, Ms. Thompson and Mr. Myers, and Ms. Bigby, who is a teacher in our school. So thank you so much for representing the district so well. It shows the quality of the work they are doing and how other districts and the state wants to hear about what we're doing. And together with that, I wanted to share that yesterday we received from Commissioner Watson a recognition. It's called the Kansas CanStar recognition that recognizes district success in the outcome measures Kansas told us that they value. So on behalf of the State Board of Education and the Kansas State Department of Education, we received the recognition for post-secondary effectiveness, graduation, preparedness for high school graduation, social-emotional growth, individual plan of study, and kindergarten readiness. And if you have been paying attention to our KISA reports, you will recognize that several of those are the KISA goals that we selected for the district and that the state has selected for the KISA process. So very proud of the staff, and it's very nice to be recognized by the commissioner. And that ends my communications. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Miguel, and thank you and congratulations to all those students and staff and who were recognized today by Dr. Miguel's comments. And we know there are so many more of you doing some amazing things. So really congratulations to all of our students who are the heart of why we're all here in this room, right? So just a reminder of why we're here. So thank you, Dr. Miguel, for sharing all that. And thank you, staff who presented as well. Just a few comments on our behalf. First, I do just want to remind folks and our board and our staff and community, a reminder of the Kansas City, Kansas Foundation for Excellence has a couple of great opportunities for us to participate and give back. Currently, the I Believe campaign is up and running, and it's a place where we can all donate any amount that's meaningful to us. These gifts that we give will go a long way in supporting and empowering students, teachers, and our community. These funds are used for grants for educators in the classroom, for scholarships for students, and so much more. So I would encourage all board members and anyone who can to give a meaningful amount, whatever that might be for you, and give something to the I Believe campaign. As a district, we should be supporting that because the foundation definitely supports our community and our students as well. So thank you to Ms. Krista Watson, their executive director, and their board for their great work. You can give online at kcksfoundation.org. Another opportunity from the Kansas City, Kansas Foundation is they are also in full planning mode for the 2021 annual golf tournament on June 2nd. There are plenty of ways to be involved in that. either by sponsoring the event, recruiting a team and get out there on the golf course yourself, or many other ways. So you can also visit online and find more information about the golf tournament. It'll be a fun-filled event and an opportunity for us to give back to the foundation and ultimately to benefit our students. So again, please contact Ms. Watson and the foundation for more information. Again, we want to thank them for the work that they do on behalf of our students and community. I'm sure Ms. Levers was probably going to note this, but April is National Library Month, and so we want to recognize Ms. Levers and all of our library staff for the amazing work that they do in our community to serve and to give. The library is now open, and so we want to just thank you and your staff for all the amazing work that you continue to do. So we're grateful to have you here with us tonight and for all that you do for our students and for our community. Thank you. Also want to recognize that April is National Child Abuse Prevention Month. This recognizes the need to prevent child abuse and neglect. Earlier this month, Governor Kelly signed a proclamation to proclaim April as Child Abuse Prevention Month. We agree with Governor Kelly that it's up to us to protect our youngest and most vulnerable students. During these stressful times, it's really important, more important than ever, to promote safe, stable, and nurturing environments for our kids. During National Child Abuse Prevention Month and throughout the entire year, it's imperative that we join together to combat child abuse in all of its forms, through neglect, mistreatment, or physical, emotional, or sexual abuse. On Friday, April 9th, Kansas City, Kansas Public School staff wore blue to make a visible commitment to preventing child abuse in our community. We've provided information and resources and ways to report suspected abuse to parents, caregivers, and community members via our Kansas City, Kansas Public Schools website. And our counselors and social workers work tirelessly to support families in building protective factors such as parental resilience, social connections, knowledge of parenting and child development, and children's social emotional development. And really in these times, it's so critical. So we just want to be aware of that and recognize that as well. Lastly, to share tonight, I just want to say on behalf of the board how proud we are of our staff. Definitely we say it all the time about our students, and we recognize our students all the time. But you know, Dr. Miguel, you and your team, it's been such an amazing journey. I know it's been such a challenging year for everybody, but I just, on behalf of the board, really just want to say to all of you, thank you for the tireless work that you all do every single day to make this year what it was and to bring our students back. It was such an amazing feeling to go to Quindaro on that first day. I was out at Quindaro Elementary. I know we had other board members who visited other schools as well to welcome those students back. And as Dr. Miguel and others shared, it was beautiful to see our students coming back and their energy and excitement. And sure, there were some that were a little nervous, absolutely. But it was such a great feeling to be out there to welcome our students back. So I just want to say on behalf of the board, Dr. Miguel and staff, those that are here in the room, those that are on Zoom, just thank you for your work. We couldn't be more proud of how we worked through this year. And board members, I just want to say how proud I am of you all as well, how we've handled and been consistent to keeping our staff and students safe. So all around, I just want to say thank you to all of you for all the work that you've done. And I just want to, I know we're not all in the room, but I do want to just give her, it's quiet in here, but just say thank you, because we couldn't have done it without your all's leadership. So I just wanted to say that. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
And that ends my communications portions today. Thank you.
Mr. Lopez.
Yes, Ms. Drew.
Thank you. I'd just also like to say that I had the privilege of going to visit several of the schools, elementary, high school, as well as middle school. It was great to see the kids ready to come back and with the staff working with them. On another note, a sad note, I'd like to announce that, and I'm sure a lot of people have heard that Mr. George Gregory Long passed away. He taught for 23 years here in the Kansas City, Kansas School District, and his funeral will be on Friday at Thatcher Funeral Home. I'd just like to acknowledge the fact that he did a great job, and now he has gone on. And so we'll keep the family in prayer. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Drew.
Thank you for that, Ms. Drew.
And we also lost a gentleman at Argentine Middle School
we don't want to go without saying something about him as well. And for everyone, I think we showed a lot of resilience, because this wasn't easy, and we still have a long fight to fight, but we just need to lift each other up.
Thank you, Ms. Page. Yeah, absolutely. We have a great critical response team that was activated over the weekend when we had that passing, and so I just want to thank the team and staff who do such an amazing work. It's always sad when you lose anyone, and so I just implore our community to keep working together, keep being together. This initiative, the Enough is Enough, that Dr. Miguel mentioned on Thursday, is another opportunity for us to come together to talk about strategies, real strategies that we can implement to keep each other safe, to keep our students safe, and to make our community that much better, the way we want it. So definitely want to recognize all those lives that we've lost. It's been a rough year in our community.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we will continue on with our agenda. Thank you. And next up, I think we have a report from the Kansas City, Kansas Public Library. Ms. Levers.
Good evening, Mr. Lopez, Board, Dr. Lane. I'm so sorry.
I'm honored
Dr.
that you called me
Miguel.
that.
I apologize. It's the second time I made that mistake.
That's okay.
So my apologies. Can you open that for me, please? I must say that the community is very excited to have the libraries open for browsing. We had one community member come in with a big bunch of flowers just to welcome us, and so thankful that she can come to the library and touch the books. So it's more work for the staff because they have to wipe off every computer that people come in and use, but they're happy to do it because, just to see the happy faces. And with all the social mitigation that's in place, it's really working very well. So this is our statistics as I normally bring it to you. This is all the services we rendered. As you can see, what we've done in the month of March. And, we've checked out 17,273 items to our people, and we've placed 6,378 holds for our community. The summer reading, our theme for summer reading is called Tales and Tales. And this is a national theme, which we usually do it every year. However, we normally have a kickoff. Each branch has a different kickoff, depending on the community, that they serve. But because of social distancing, etc., we decided, and depending on board approval, that we're going to have one kickoff, and we can just concentrate on that. And the kickoff will be done at the Boulevard Drive-In. The Boulevard Drive-In can accommodate 350 cars, and we thought that would be good, and kids and families won't have to intermingle, and that's the way to keep them kind of apart. However, we have a fantastic guest, and it's Representative Sharice Davis. She has written a book called Sharice's Big Voice, and we will launch that book. Each car, not each person, but each car will get a signed copy of her book. So we are really excited, and hopefully that the board will okay that so that I can go back, and because I told them we'll wait until the board is okay with this before we do any advertisement or anything. And she's happy. She's already put those. It will be, I think it's July 7th at the Boulevard Drive-In. And once we have the okay, we will go ahead and let her know so that we can start advertising. And that's my report for the evening, unless you have any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Levers. Any questions for Ms. Levers?
Did we want to go ahead and vote for that initiative now?
Yes.
Okay, well, I'll make a motion that we approve for the library to have one opening as described in her report.
I second it.
Motion and a second. Any questions?
Yeah.
My question is just to understand, do we normally vote for her events, or is it just because of the situation?
Sorry, I did not understand the
We
question.
don't usually vote for it. She just usually arranges it. We don't usually vote
Right.
on your.
We don't
Right.
need action for,
I just wanted to make sure that it's okay with the board. I didn't want to just do it and then the board comes and asks, how can you take, invite the people there? You didn't even bring it to us. So that was my only,
And that makes sense, Ms. Levers. I just really wanted to understand because I didn't remember ever really voting for any of your activities. So that was my question.
okay.
I think so. Should we?
Is the issue or the concern because of the COVID mitigation requirements right now?
Right, and that's the only
I
thing.
think under that circumstance, I think she's asking the board for approval.
Okay.
That
Yeah.
this event can go forward,
Okay.
Since the board closed the library.
Right.
which is not normally the case.
Gotcha. Thank you, Mr. Goheen. Ms. Page?
And my concern, again, the issue of we present the first time, because this is a little different, and then the second time we vote on it. But I'm a little confused too about the way, I know you said it was COVID, but normally you go ahead and plan whatever you plan, and we just hear about it.
Right.
That's the normal protocol, so how,
Yeah, I don't think that changes in the sense that Ms. Levers normally sets up her programming and does her direction and doesn't need to come to the board for that approval. I think the concern that I had heard was because of the current COVID mitigation factor, she just didn't want to move forward with something if the board didn't want
May,
to do so.
may, may
Because-
question about,
So,
that we're taking it to the drive-in and maybe exposing people or whatever, which, because we're not doing any major get-togethers. This is the first, because that's what we said until we kind of out of this COVID thing. And I just thought, I'll just ask, just to make sure, doesn't matter.
Thank you, Ms. Lever. So I think, oh, go ahead, Ms. Page.
so since we're concerned with COVID, they need to wear masks to this event, right?
Yes, all
Okay.
social
And-
mitigation will be in
And you
place.
said 350 cars, so there'll be the spacing
Yes,
and everything.
yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay. I think as Mr. Goheen and others have noted, we typically wouldn't have to, but I think just because of the COVID protocols and since we had given some direction to the library, just for this time, we'll go ahead and just to be safe, there's a motion and a second on the floor. Ms. Smith, unless there are other questions, we'll go ahead and take a vote. Ms. Smith?
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Janie, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Dr. Nguyen,
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
Dr. Yeager.
Dr. Yeager, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Levers.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Rivers. Randy, I
Yep.
would like to tell Carol, I think that's an excellent idea. Usually they have events at each library, but this is a great way to kick off the summer after the library's being closed, to bring everybody kind of on one page. And with Sharice Davis there, this is going to be fun.
Thank you, Ms. Humphries. All right, so we will continue with our agenda. Next are our board updates. The first one we have on the agenda is social emotional learning resolution. And I will go ahead and take this one. So board, if you recall at our March 23rd board meeting, I spoke about the social emotional learning and its importance in our work and how we operate. And if you recall, March 26th was designated as International Social Emotional Learning Day. Research shows that social emotional learning, or SEL, changes lives and provides many benefits to our students, including improved social emotional skills, well-being, and behavior to improved academic outcomes. Our SEL coordinator, Tracy Chauvin, is our advocate for the SEL work in the Department of Student Services. Tracy really helped to promote SEL Day via our social media and artifacts that celebrates the work from our schools. This is an important opportunity to reinforce the value of our students feeling valued and safe as we have our students return back in the school and those that are still virtual as well. Today, I'm back in front of you, in front of the board, asking that we approve the resolution that's in front of you to acknowledge Social Emotional Learning and International Day as stated in the resolution. So I could read the resolution. I'm asking if the board would move to approve the resolution that's in front of you.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the social emotional learning document as presented.
Second.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions? If not, I would ask Ms. Smith to go ahead and roll call vote, please.
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Janie, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Dr. Nguyen,
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
Dr. Yeager.
Dr. Yeager, yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes. Thank you so much. And board, I do just, I'm going to invite Tracy Chauvin to come up and just briefly give us a couple of highlights of the work. But I do want to just acknowledge that this board has been so proactive in this work around social emotional learning, trauma-sensitive learning and education. And there aren't too many other boards, especially school boards, who do this work and practice it. So I'm really grateful for this board and the work that you do. And I'd like to introduce Tracy Chauvin, who's with us this afternoon. So welcome, and thank you for being with us.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm so excited to meet you in person. Thank you, Dr. Miguel, President Lopez, board members. I really appreciate the focus and the highlight that you guys consistently bring on social emotional wellness for our entire community. And thank you for allowing me the time to highlight what's happening within our community in regards to social emotional growth. In the past year, we've devoted an entire website called selkck.com to promoting what's going on in our community around social emotional learning and social emotional growth. In addition, we also have social media that I invite everybody to follow, where you can get tips, tricks, and resources consistently updated. We have stuff going on all the time in our community that is so great and so rich. So I invite you guys to get continual feeds of news and updates on our social media. We also have social emotional skills being explicitly taught in our classrooms. Through Second Step, Naviance, Mind Up, and other programs, our teachers are always constantly reinforcing through the strategies such as cooperative learning that they use, which teaches conversation skills, again, cooperative learning, acceptance, empathy, new perspectives. If you walk into classrooms, you're going to see morning meetings, circles happening, where we're learning about each other's individual differences, unique perspectives, conversation skills, and also gathering richer, deeper relationships amongst each other and with the teachers and staff in our buildings. Our counselors and social workers work to provide opportunities for students to learn and practice SEL skills. They're developing resilience, positive opportunities for school communities to learn and grow together, such as our April 9th day to wear blue to promote Child Abuse Prevention Month. We had Bullying Prevention Month. We had Unity Day. These are all opportunities for our community to grow together in our resilience and our SEL skills. There's also been a renewed focus on adult SEL skills. Our Trauma Sensitive Resilient Schools Coordinator, Brittany Talley, has been doing Trauma Sensitive Tuesdays. One Tuesday a month is devoted specifically for self-care skills. We do this bi-weekly, so the other Tuesday, it's on skills to teach. So those classroom circles, morning meetings, restorative practices. So we're not only giving our teachers tools, we're also taking time to focus on them as people as well and their wellness. In creating these socially, emotionally rich cultures, our students, staff, and families feel welcome, safe, and connected. So thank you guys so much for your continued focus and your time tonight.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you so
Chauvin.
much, Tracy. Very important work that they are doing, and I do appreciate the recognition. Thank you. The next item is a request that the Kansas City Board of Education approve the purchase of the Allspot Tiny AI cameras as submitted by Dr. Pitch and the other instructional improvement officers. And Dr. Pitch is going to be here to share a little bit about the cameras. This is an initiative that the board already knows about, and we had to move very quickly to support schools that needed to do in-person and remote learning when we extended the choice to families. So we appreciate the flexibility of the board, and Dr. Pitch is going to share a little bit more with us.
Good evening, Dr. Miguel and our esteemed members of the board. As an informational item, I was given the opportunity to brief you on the purchase of the OBSBOT cameras to support teaching and learning. The OBSBOT camera is designed to allow teachers to simultaneously teach students live while broadcasting that same instruction to remote learners at home. Among the features, it includes better sound and video quality and has the ability to recognize the teacher and zoom in and out using hand gestures. One of the most useful qualities of these cameras is their ability to recognize the teacher's face, allowing the camera to follow them around the room during their instruction. This allows the teacher to move more freely to instruct the live class while still allowing the remote students to be included in what is being said and demonstrated by the teacher. Further, they present additional possibilities for sharing instruction and learning within and between campuses in the coming years. Based on what we have learned during this long period of remote learning we have just experienced, we feel like we can use these on a continued basis moving forward. After piloting these cameras on campuses with strong positive feedback, we currently have 388 cameras being shipped to our district and look forward to deploying them as soon as they are received. Thank you for the opportunity to share this information. I would be glad to answer questions if it pleases the board.
Thank you, Dr. Pitch. Any questions from board members for Dr. Pitch? Or Dr.
Mr. Lopez, I'd like to ask a question, please. Dr. Pitch, your 388 cameras fills how many classrooms, how many schools, and what else is needed?
Currently, 388 cameras is all the company has available at this time. It does not fill up all the classrooms. We are distributing them across the campuses at all levels. And ideally, if we can get more and we find that they are extremely useful, we will continue to move to purchase additional options.
So maybe what would clarify if one of the IAOs has, we have a list of how many per elementary school, how many for the elementary schools that had an assistant principal, because that tells us about the number of students. Then we decided a certain number for the middle school and for the high schools. I don't have the numbers with me, but if the IAOs have it in front of them, can you share that or remind me what the number is?
If one of my IAO members does not come on, I'm going to say that I believe we had 10 per elementary campus, 15 per middle, and 20 per high school. The reason being primarily that the high schools have more remote learners at this time.
And I can send the exact numbers if we don't hear from the IAOs by the different levels. But I do want to say we have heard about the appreciation from teachers who, without these cameras, what we saw they had to do is with having a class of students like we have sitting here today, having to run back to the laptop because they had a number of students on the screen, and then maybe running back to the board or wherever they needed to assist a child. These cameras are amazing in the sense that they recognize the voice and the face of the teacher and then will follow them around. So it focuses on the teacher, and now the teacher can show whatever they are showing to the in-person students so that we don't have that gap in learning. So we're really very grateful that we can get them.
So as a follow-up, is this the only company surely this is not the only company that provides this?
This was a proprietary purchase based on the features of the camera and its price range bandwidth.
So you're committed to stay with this one company?
This is the only company that we could find that made this. There were additional ones that had a higher end for conferences, for large-scale conferences. This was most suited for the classrooms and was substantially cheaper than some of the other manufacturers that had the higher end models.
And Dr. Pitch, if I'm correct, this is a local company that already has a contract with the state. Maybe Wayne is on with us and can clarify that. These cameras.
Yeah, I'm on. We're buying them from Kansas City Audio Visual.
Right.
They are a Kansas State contract holder to provide technology and services. So we're buying them through Kansas City Audio Visual. The company is actually out of China,
They can
but it is a
also,
proprietary item.
Yeah, all companies are probably out of China.
Yeah, that's true.
With permission, just one last question. So does this qualify for the, and for lack of the proper term, the CARES 2 or the ESSER funds?
yes, we are using ESSER funds for this. That is correct.
So, and I'm sorry, the last one, is there a plan to, if they have the capacity, are we looking to put in every classroom?
We made this initial purchase first to satisfy the need as soon as possible, but also because we thought we wanted to be cautious and make sure that it's something that we want to use in larger numbers. I think because of what we have experienced in the last week and knowing that at times we may have to quarantine students due to possible exposures, we want to be ready to always meet the needs of remote learners at the same time as the in-person. So what I foresee is that we will buy more just because this is a small number of classrooms when you think of the numbers of classrooms we have. So yes, Dr. Wynn, we think we're going to be purchasing more.
Well, if that is the intent, would it be wise to pre-order to kind of lock down the supplies?
And Mr. Correll is working on all of that, yes.
Okay.
Yes, I can actually get them from Amazon, but not in
Right.
big numbers.
So we know that
Thank
some
you.
schools are purchasing a few more from Amazon as they can get them. But of course, Mr. Correll also negotiated a good deal based on the numbers, so we were very pleased with the transaction. Thank you, Mr. Correll.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez.
Thank you.
Can I ask a couple of questions as well? This is Yolanda. So one of my questions is, and I don't expect for anyone necessarily to know the answer, but I'm curious about ongoing usage. I understand the immediate need of the cameras and other equipment that we've had to purchase because of the pandemic, but just future usage, have we given some thought to how we will use all of our equipment that we've purchased through the pandemic?
Specifically to these cameras, we have given quite a bit of thought to how these can be used. One
Okay.
example would be if we have a shortage of teachers on one campus, we can broadcast instruction from a campus that has a certified teacher to a classroom with students that needs that instruction. Additionally, we see some possibilities of sharing learning within the same campus as students can experience learning together from different classrooms within the same building. So we do see lots of possibilities, and we've learned quite a bit over this last year that we think we can employ.
Okay, and I have one more question, and this one may be a Mr. Goheen question, I really don't know. I'm just curious about, like, policy, I'm gonna use the word policy as far as the teachers and the cameras being used. Are we covered there with whatever legal documentation we had to have?
Yeah, I mean, as far as the camera usage for what we're talking about, the broadcasting, or I'm using the term broadcasting, it's not the right term, but of lessons and the interaction with students who may be remote learning, or students who may be on a different campus, that's something that we need to work through from a policy standpoint. There's a lot of things we're trying to learn as we navigate through this. But for right now, I think we're in good shape as to what that looks like. I think there will be some longer-term policy issues that we'll have to put into place as this becomes more of a routine aspect of what our learning process may be like in the future, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then I promise this is my last question, and it's about maintenance. Do we have a good maintenance policy in place when they're having problems with their technology?
This is very new to us, so we are learning as we speak, but we do have an amazing, although very small TIS department that provides excellent services. So we will also learn about, how they endure the use. So we are learning as we speak. We've never used them before.
Understood. Thank you.
I have one question. You said it would be allowable under the ESSER 2 funding?
We are using ESSER 1 because we haven't presented the plan for ESSER 2 yet.
I thought we had already used up our ESSER 1.
No, we still have some.
We still have some left? Oh, okay.
Right, so that made it very easy. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. I would, and this needs to be approved tonight, correct, Dr. Miguel?
Please,
Okay,
yes.
so I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further questions? If not, Ms. Smith, roll call, please.
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Janie, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Dr. Nguyen,
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
and Dr. Yeager.
Dr. Yeager, yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Pitch, Dr. Miguel.
Thank you, Dr. Pitch. Thank you, Board. Our next item is an informational item that we are asking the Board to accept as information only for the future approval of a sped adoption of a new IEP system solution. And we have Dr. Lori here to share with us some of that information.
Good evening, Board President Lopez, Vice President Page, all school board members, and Dr. Miguel. I stand before you as the Executive Director of Wyandotte County Comprehensive Special Education Cooperative, representing 3 school districts, about 4,600 students, and approximately 600 staff members. Today, I am here to share with you information regarding adopting a new SPED IEP system. I find it very important to share with you our needs as a cooperative, our engagement in this process, and our benefit of adopting a new IEP system, our cost and our savings of our selection of our proposed IEP service agreement. As I shared, special education is responsible for providing services to about 4,600 students, but 3,500 students are right here being served in Kansas City, Kansas public schools. Our work is not only focused in our district's vision, goal, and mission, but our work as a special education cooperative is centered around our SPED mission and our SPED vision. As our SPED priorities are aligned with our district strategic priorities, it keeps us grounded in our purpose. Our current system is WebKids, and it has been used for over 20 years and is no longer meeting the needs of the 21st century. Our students, our families, teachers, related service providers, our building leaders, and our special education leadership team. We need a system that is user-friendly and allows for high level of engagement of our parents and provides electronic digital signatures for our parents to give consent for us to serve our students right away. We need a system that offers tools to help progress monitor student learning and goals, with a tool that is put in place where you can add those data points anytime when progressing goals, and provide a visual to our parents to help them understand how their student is making progress on their goals. We need a system that is efficient and less time-consuming for our staff to do their work in a timely and accurate manner. We also need a system that allows for easy exporting and importing of data that we use to make informed decisions about special education instruction, programming, and student achievement, and also to improve our compliance. We need a system that integrates our 2 membership districts as well as Infinite Campus, and can house all of our documents in one centralized place. We need a system that is more efficient and provides our staff the opportunity to accurately report data to the state from one system. What I have described is just a part of the basic needs we should have within an IEP system. I now want to share with you how we engaged in this process, and it started back in November 2020. Our SPED leadership team reviewed and examined our current system and processes, and we engaged in deep conversations regarding department needs, examined our current budget of the purchase of a new system and the sustainability. We involved several levels of stakeholders through opportunities for them to demo several IEP systems, as is shown on the screen, and we surveyed those stakeholders, receiving a 77% response rate. We also had a unique parent perspective considered, as some of our stakeholders have families or children in our district in special education, just as I do. Our stakeholder results led to our selection of CompuSped as our proposed new IEP system. And as I was able to negotiate the cost for our top choice to move us forward with this finalized decision with all that was involved in the process. Our new proposed IEP system is called CompuSped, which enhances our current relationship that we currently have with Greenbush, who we use for our Medicaid billing system called CompuClaim. My experiences with Greenbush and our CompuClaim system have been amazing since I've stepped into this role. During our toughest and roughest times over the past few months, they have been available, attentive to our needs, have taken on multiple roles to ensure our Medicaid process did not suffer a great loss due to some of the vacancies for retirement and the unfortunate death of one of our team members due to COVID. Although they do have an interest to be supportive, it's the level and the consistency of the support that is greatly needed and appreciated. And to know that our proposed new system of CompuSped will maintain and bring us that same level of support for our students, our families, and our staff speaks volumes to me as the leader of this department. At this time, I want to address specifically some board questions that I received. I thought it was very appropriate for me to ask these questions publicly and give answers publicly. So one of the questions I received was, what other districts are using CompuSped? So currently there are 180 school districts that are using the CompuClaim Medicaid platform in Kansas with Greenbush. And they have added on the CompuSped platform in that offering, which has white labeled the Lumen Touch as the Bright Sped product, which is currently used in Kansas and in Missouri. In Kansas, Tonganoxie Baser Linwood Cooperative are users. Manhattan remains a user of the platform for over 10 years, and Garden City is currently using the 504 component of the platform. The other question asked was, how does CompuSped interface with Infinite Campus? CompuSped uses API integration, Application Program Interface. In a proactive approach, I have connected CompuSped with our district integration staff to have conversations to determine what data that is required and will be needed. We do know both systems will be able to integrate. We do know we will be able to import and export data both ways, and it will be done and updated nightly. Our benefit of adopting CompuSped includes security, efficiency, and personalization. CompuSped promotes monitoring 24 hours, 7 days a week. CompuSped will be able to develop a system that is unique and personalized to our cooperative needs and the needs of our students, making it user-friendly for our staff and our parents. Another benefit is to our families, for our families. With CompuSped, our families will have a parent portal that will increase parent participation and allow us to share data with parents about their students and allow for us to receive feedback from our parents. With the parent portal, we can increase parent participation by offering over 70 languages that will allow more involvement in the IEP process as the state and the federal laws requires, removing the barriers of written language. Here are another set of questions that I received from the board that I also want to address publicly. How will parents access the parent portal who may not have their own device? If our parents do not have their own device, they can access the portal with any device, whether that's a phone, an iPad, a laptop, or even if they go to the library and use their device, they will have a personal login for them to access their information about their child. The platform is the latest encryption and technology security standards to maintain all confidentiality throughout the system. So what about our parent trainings? As part of our next steps, we will offer parent training this summer. Our SPED leaders are available to provide those training sessions, and CompuSped can also host a live webinar and provide pre-recorded learning modules just for our families. How will CompuSped improve ongoing progress monitoring of IEP goals? CompuSped allows us to report progress using graphing features as well as our traditional narration. These features will allow our parents, caregivers, the opportunity to better visualize the data needed and used to support progress towards their students' IEP. Within the system, multiple staff members who are responsible for providing different services will be able to access the system at the same time and mark progress on goals anytime. Currently, parents are given progress reports quarterly. Will this increase the rate of tracking progress monitoring? If so, how? Reporting progress to our parents quarterly will stay the same. However, what and how we progress monitor goals will be the difference makers for our teachers and our families. The parent portal allows parents to access to see the data that has been updated prior to even receiving the progress monitoring that is due to them every quarter. The frequency of progress monitoring can increase due to the simplicity of the program and allowing multiple people who work with the student to access and input that data. Trend lines, projections are immediately available through this system that tells the story of our students and how they are progressing or not progressing. This next slide, there was a question about how does CompuSped complement Goldbook? So I want to take an opportunity to talk through some of that. The benefit of time, efficiency, and streamlining processes are critical to the end results for our students. Last year, as you remember, the board approved the purchase of Goldbook, which is an excellent tool. It helps for developing goals for students with disabilities and it assists with the development of our PLEPs, which is our present levels of academic achievement and functional performance that is required in every IEP. CompuSped is able to integrate access to Goldbook into the IEP system, which will have a direct benefit for the teachers. Goldbook will be supported through CompuSped in a variety of ways. Goals written within Goldbook can be copied into the CompuSped's goal sections of the IEP. And the information and the learning that comes from the Goldbook can be reinforced through what is currently built into the CompuSped Goldbook, and it's customized. Integration of Goldbook is supported also in a variety of ways, like a single sign-on through Clever, which we currently use. This allows users to have one place to access both CompuSped and Goldbook with no extra logins. The CompuSped team will work with Goldbook on integration options that Goldbook is willing to support. The level of integration is dependent upon Goldbook, but I can tell you CompuSped is being proactive and is currently in the process of communicating with Goldbook team and awaiting a response if we are able to move forward. For the upcoming slide, I have aligned our SPED priorities which are aligned to our district priorities at the top of the slide when I talk about some of the other features of CompuSped. CompuSped provides single school management and a cooperative level management. It allows our building leaders to see what is happening in their buildings with their students, with their teachers. And it also provides them a school level dashboard. And that is an example of what a school level will be able to see. How many students have IEPs, what are their areas, what are their teachers, and they can also do their compliance checks as well. CompuSped has built-in notifications, which alone will save a lot of time for processing IEPs. Our current process, our teachers are required, along with our related service providers, are required to print multiple pages of an IEP, scan them in a certain order, then email it to someone just to review before you can even get to processing the IEP. And when you have that many IEPs to process, it really impacts the delivery of getting a finalized IEP to our parents. So with CompuSped, everything is in one place, and notifications are used to notify those that need to complete certain tasks to get that IEP finalized and into the hands of our families. Accurate and timely data submission has been an area in our cooperative that we have struggled with compliance over the past couple of years. But with CompuSped, there will be no way to now move forward without completing accurate information. Through the notifications and the limitations that are allowed for each user, they no longer can put in just anything to get past the screen to move through the process. It will be checked and verified to ensure that we are providing accurate information in a timely manner. So staying on task, sending out reminders for our parents to participate is made much easier through this process of enhanced management. The constant reminders, it allows us to know what needs to be completed, what needs to be fixed, so we can stay in compliance. Access to reporting with CompuSped will not only serve our needs in the work that we do in special education, but it also will have an impact on other district areas, such as KCCKPS compliance reporting, support in MTSS, 504 management, and ultimately our state reporting. This list you see before you is just a few things and ways that CompuSped will help us meet our needs, but it is not an exhaustive list. Special education and compliance is our priority because it is a direct impact on students and student outcomes. And now I will get to the cost of what it will cost to meet our needs. So this slide is the proposed cost of adopting CompuSped as our new IEP system. Our current system, we pay approximately $25,000 a year. And for an additional $20,000, our return on investment will be remarkable. I spent extra time exploring this system, and I challenged those developers to add certain forms and processes, and they were able to respond and deliver in a timely manner. I had them break down each line item along with their rationale for their proposed costs to ensure what we really need most, which will be ongoing training and professional development for our staff and our parents, that we will be able to get that at no cost later down the road. So there's the cross-outs there. We won't have to pay for that. And in our cooperative budget, which both of our membership districts contribute to, we currently have the budget for the additional cost for the new IEP system. And we will be able to sustain the use of the IEP system years to come. But this is even the greater part that I want to share. Even though I talked about a cost, we actually have a savings. So leveraging our current relationship with Greenbush, CompuClaim, we are able to save money on the side of Medicaid billing by adopting CompuSped, which is a bonus for us. We will be able to keep 1% more of our Medicaid dollars with this adoption. As we strive to continue to increase our Medicaid revenue, if we are able to bring in $2 million with Medicaid, which historically we're able to bring in just a little bit less than that now, the savings of 1% keeps $20,000 in our cooperative budget. So in reality, we end up paying roughly the same amount of money for a new IEP system that we've had paid for a system we've had for 20 years that is currently outdated and not effective in its use for us. So if you see the value of our need, if you see the value of our engagement and our benefit, here is our roadmap to implementation. Starting with establishing that relationship, personalizing this product to meet our needs, providing the necessary professional learning, we will be ready to go live this fall with immediate access as early as May next month at no extra charge. These are our next steps. And the immediate next step is for me to come back before you board on April 27, 2021, asking for your approval for our proposed new IEP system agreement with CompuSped. So I thank you for allowing me this opportunity to represent our Wyandotte County Comprehensive Special Education Cooperative, our engagement process, our needs and our benefit that will help us move forward this department, keeping true to our mission, which is kids first, and our vision, which is empowering all students with exceptionalities to meet their full potential in schools and in our community. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lori. Any questions?
Thank you, Dr. Lori, for the information. Board members, any questions? This will come back around to us at our next board meeting.
Yes.
But any questions currently?
I would like to say thank you for providing the detailed information and the responses to the board questions. I know a number of us had questions about integration and how we'll work with other things. So thank you for the in-depth explanation of that.
Thank you.
I also, this is Dr. Nguyen. Thank you for the presentation. One question, please. While it does complement, you said Gold Book, is there any duplication there that in the future not have that contract with Gold Book?
Right now, there is no duplication because what Gold Book offers is so in-depth. It really gets down to writing and assisting with the objectives, the benchmarks, and it allows our teachers to develop the PLEP. And that is the meat of our IEP system, and that is something that CompuSped doesn't do. They're the management of it. The Gold Book provides that support to write a really good IEP. So it adds the content to the IEP. So it's really different, but it does integrate and complement each other.
So we'll have kind of layering of multiple multi-year contracts to provide the support and the platform that you need. Is that correct?
Could you repeat that again?
Well, so we already have 1 year, I guess, with Gold Book. Is that I think that's a multi-year contract, correct?
Yes.
So we would have to renew every year.
So we'll have, do you have to do every year? So every year there'll be a kind of layering because some will come, will they expire at different times or they expire the same time?
Yes, they will expire at different times. Depends on when we are able to implement this program, then it will expire within the date of when we made this contract valid. And then the contract that you signed for Gold Book, it will be renewed according to their date.
To the date when we first bought it, right.
I hope that.
Sir?
It's frozen on our end, Randy. Rashid, it's frozen on our end.
Can you hear us?
We can now. Thank you.
Okay.
So anyway, thank you, Dr. Lowry. And maybe moving forward, could you kind of give us just a timeline as a heads up when these contracts would be renewed, so we'll know that we're on the same kind of track.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lopez.
Thank you, Dr. Nguyen. Thank you, Dr. Lori. Any other questions from board members? If not, again, this is informational tonight. Thank you. This will come back around at a future board meeting.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lori. The next one is also an informational item that Mr. Mathesmeyer is going to present to you for a service agreement with Labor Max Temp Staffing.
Good evening, Board. Dr. Miguel. Just want to provide some really brief background on this service agreement. Back in September, the Board approved a low bid for temporary staffing services. That contract is in place and currently being used. Our needs outpace the contractor's ability to meet our needs. Our current needs were over 30 a day for our temporary staffing needs. And as of today, they've been able to fill about 9 a day. So what we're asking of the board is a secondary vendor so that we can fill those remaining spots, still giving obviously the primary vendor first dibs, for lack of a better word, for those temporary staffing needs that we have. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Mathis-Meyer. Any questions from board members?
When we were last together at the planning meeting, we had asked some questions. I didn't expect you to have it now, but in regard to, are we looking at long-term plans on how to alleviate this problem? So I didn't know if you were still working on that.
Sure.
I know you can't, go ahead.
I think one of the questions was related to postings and how we're advertising for the positions. I did hear from our recruiting team. They've, hit a lot of the Glassdoor, Indeed, Talent.com, LinkedIn, a lot of those areas. Our positions were also featured on the virtual career fairs. I think we've hit all of our social media platforms, district website, lots of other areas that they shared with me. Personally for us, we're really going to hit the recruiting and hiring trail looking towards August, probably in May. Right now is kind of an interesting time to be hiring, knowing the end of the school year is really close around the corner. So our goal for recruiting and hiring is to get as far as we can in August.
And then I guess, just a comment, we had the opportunity to attend a national convention for school boards, and one thing they kept emphasizing is that we all need to reassess what happened during COVID and the reentry and all of that, and how we can do things better and work better, and because this just seems to be an ongoing problem. And I'm not saying it's your fault, I'm just saying it's a problem we have as a district. So how do we make this better and working toward just brainstorming? We got a lot of smart people. We got to utilize them and look at how we can do this better and try not to keep coming to the same thing. So just a comment.
Thank you, Ms. Page.
Questions from other board members? If not, again.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Ms. Clark.
No, this is Yolanda, and I just want to add on to what Ms. Page just mentioned. And this doesn't fix the problem for now. So as she mentioned, just kind of thinking about what we can do for future. And one thing that I thought I heard is sometimes we have a hard time because people are wanting to have something. I'm going to use the word full-time. I know that's not full-time. There's so many days behind these positions, and sometimes that causes issues. So I don't know if we've ever looked at how we can reassure people that their positions can be leveraged. So moving people around versus having them set in one place. I call it a utility. I don't know what other roles call them, but maybe providing some stability there with people knowing in the summer, I switch over to this responsibility. And that's already something that's been established in the very beginning versus we might have work, we may not.
Yeah, that's a great point, Ms. Clark. I can tell you from a nutritional services standpoint, we have a pretty robust summer meal program, so we do, I'll say hire for, more days than what their normal contract might be, a lot of our staff. In addition to that, over the last couple of years, I know a lot of my staff, and I think transportation as well, have helped out in the custodial environment during the summer, so that trying to stretch more days that our folks can have. Obviously, that's never ever a guarantee to our staff, and we share that with anybody that we're interviewing or even staff internally. But we have found ways to try and get them more work during that summertime because we know that is a challenge for current and future candidates.
So not expecting a response right now. This is definitely something that can be thought about. Instead of, because I hear that we always have custodian positions open as well, and then other positions. And I just don't know where those skills are transferable. And I think we're speaking similar to the same language, but instead of saying we try to stretch your days, how can we guarantee our employees that we will stretch their days and that they will have work year round? So that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Clark.
Thank you, Ms. Clark. Other board members? If not, again, thank you, Mr. Mathis-Meyer. This will come back before the board at a later date. So thank you for the presentation and update.
Mr. Lopez, before you get to the consent calendar, can I ask Mr. Goheen a question, please?
Yes, Dr. Nguyen.
I know the procedure is at the consent calendar to set items aside. Must they be set aside to just for one or two questions?
Technically, the way the consent agenda is set up is that designed to not have questions or discussion about the items on the consent agenda, so setting them aside affords the procedural mechanism for asking questions about a particular item. I suppose it's up to the board to decide if they wanted to allow departure from that and ask specific questions without removing an item from the consent agenda. So that would be a possibility if the board wanted to approach it that way from a procedural standpoint. But the current practice would be if you have questions about an item to set it aside so that questions can be asked about that specific item.
Okay, thank you. So I have a couple questions, Mr. Lopez. How do you want to proceed?
So just for best practice, I would prefer just stick with the process as is. If you do have specific questions, we'll pull the items from the consent, and that way we can vote on the consent agenda items as a whole. That way we stay in the same practice we have been in process. Thank you.
Okay, then Mr. Lopez, I'd like to set aside item B like boy, and E like easy.
Okay, item B and item E are being pulled. Anything else from the board? Otherwise, I would entertain a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda minus items B as in boy and E as in easy.
So moved.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Ms. Smith, roll call, please.
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Janie, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Dr. Nguyen,
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
Dr. Yeager.
Dr. Yeager, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we will go ahead and start with item B. Dr. Nguyen?
Okay, just one small question I asked previously. With the vacancies of the SPED teachers, are we not still contracting with the agencies to provide those positions?
Dr. Lori is on here, but yes, they are still contracting with.
Dr. Lori is approaching the podium.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am, we still are contracting with our agencies to fill those positions.
So I guess the question is then, why are there vacancies?
Because we are struggling, the agencies are struggling with getting teachers to come, and then with the whole concept of coming back in person, some teachers in their agencies were not wanting to come back in person, they only wanted to work remote. There are a lot of different reasons why the agencies are not able to provide us with the staff to fill those vacancies.
So then what is plan B?
What we are currently doing, and what I have done since we have returned back in person, we are using our special education leadership team, which are our teacher leaders and our coordinators, to provide support in those classrooms to make sure the students are not going unserved and meeting their minutes.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And that is a practice, thank you, Dr. Lori, that we have done with other content areas. Some instructional coaches and curriculum coaches are filling in those vacancies when we cannot find substitutes.
Okay, any other questions on item B? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve item B, the human resources report.
So moved. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Thank you. Ms. Smith, roll call, please.
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Janie, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Dr. Nguyen,
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
Dr. Yeager.
Dr. Yeager, yes.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Smith. Next item, the payment of bills. Dr. Nguyen, you had a question?
Sure, and again, thank you for the response. Just a kind of like an understanding thing. The generic question is, can the items that are computers, AirPods, television, can they be assigned? Are they coming out of general funds, or can we use, I'll call again, CARES 2 funds?
We can use ESSER funds. Mr. Covington, if you want, to give you an example, when we bought the AirPods was when the whole force was returning to work. So we realized that many of the people who are in cubicles were going to have a lot of the remote work in the cubicle. So very quickly, we had to solve that problem that was presented by the whole force coming back. So we decided to purchase the AirPods, kind of suddenly, but we're always trying to meet the needs of employees. So for that, we were able to use ESSER funds. Mr. Covington?
Great.
Yes, that was correct. And the rest of those items were either purchased by individual school or for individual schools, so those came out of general funds.
Can we use ESSER funds to backfill that?
We can use ESSER funds for anything that's directly related to the pandemic. Or ESSER 1 was directly related to the pandemic. When we start using ESSER 2, it's anything related to the loss of learning or the pandemic. So we're going to have a little bit more latitude also.
So again, the question is, if it comes out of general funds now, can it be backfilled with the ESSER funds?
The answer would be yes, if it meets those requirements.
If it's aligned to one of the 15 areas, we will be able to draw, because
Right.
ESSER 2 works as drawing the funds from the state funds. So
And
yes.
ESSER 2 expenditures, you can go back and get reimbursements from March going forward.
Okay, good. So then the clarification question is, it looks like, and help me understand, are there now 74 televisions purchased for Argentine Middle School?
Yes, ma'am.
Or is that duplication?
I don't have, Wayne, are you
It
still
was
on?
37 65-inch televisions for Argentine.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And then there's 37 Apple TV for Argentine.
That's
The Apple
it.
TV is just a module that hooks up to the TV that allows access to programs.
And it allows the teacher to project from the laptop onto the TV so students can see what the teacher is accessing. For example, like the presentations we show, if you have a regular TV, you need the Apple TV for that.
Are there plans to do that in other schools?
Most schools yes, in every classroom that we have a TV, we have an Apple TV, because we use the TV to project the lessons.
Right, I understand all that. I'm just thinking of future planning. Are the ESSER funds adequate to provide this for every classroom in the district?
That would be an allowable
Yeah.
expense, yes.
Because we would be using those TVs to, if we can make the connection to student learning and to,
Right.
then it's an allowable expense. The good thing, Dr. Nguyen, is for ESSER 2, we have to present the plan, which will be shared with the board before we present it to the state, and it has to be approved. So if it's not approved, we will know ahead of time before we try to buy anything.
Yeah, I know, there's the I'll
task
call it
force.
task force, but it's not that, to approve it first.
Exactly.
But I'm just, again, thinking about down the line, what's the number? How many classrooms do we have in the district?
Well, but the purchase of the Apple TVs is because, and the TVs, is not that we are going to purchase TVs for every classroom. It's, in this case, when we have to upgrade them or replace technology that needs to be upgraded, because we do have TVs in every classroom. So as we see the need, we will make it part of the plan. And we're having schools provide input into what they think they need. We're not creating the plan just from central office. So if schools tell us.
And I understand that, because as the board has had conversations, and Mrs. Clark has brought this in, that, talking about equity across the district, just, again, thinking down the line.
Sure, so this is a great opportunity. If we see schools that are better equipped than others, this is a great opportunity to address that, so we will.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
At appropriate time, Mr. Lopez, I'll make the motion.
Okay. Any further questions? If not, would entertain a motion to approve the bills?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Ms. Smith, roll call, please.
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Jane, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Dr. Nguyen,
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
Dr. Yeager.
Dr. Yeager, yes.
Thank you.
Great, motion passes. Thank you, everybody. Okay.
Thank you.
Moving on with our agenda, we have Finance Committee updates.
Yes, the Finance Committee met and we decided to bring 3 items forward to the board. So with that, I'll hand it over.
Thank you, Dr. Yeager.
Yes, thank you. This is Tracy Kaiser. Good evening, President Lopez, Vice President Page, board members, and Dr. Miguel. I would like to welcome Dustin Avey, who is the District Bond Counsel, to present a presentation on possibility of refinancing our bonds and the LOB authority.
Thank you, Tracy. Good evening, Board of Education. Good to be before you again. Really just wanted to spend a few minutes revisiting and discussing what we shared with the Finance Committee a few weeks ago, really along the lines of more long-range planning and thinking about various budget options as we move forward and begin preparing for the 2021-22 budget. As we think about those strategies and those options, we really wanted to share one related to the local option budget. As you're aware, the district's current local option budget is at 30%, and there is the authority to move that local option budget to 33%. And so we wanted to present an option that would allow the district to move it from 30% to 33% without requiring any sort of additional tax and keeping the mill levy at its current level. And this is a similar strategy that other districts have implemented here recently as we look at not only the bond fund in terms of how we repay bonds, but how can we manage the bond fund levy to help us from an operating perspective. And so there's a couple different strategies and scenarios that we wanted to share. I think it's important as we consider going from a 30 to 33% LOB, what does that mean financially to the school district? It means about $5 million of total additional revenues. $1 million would be coming from tax revenue, and $4 million would be coming from the state of Kansas as part of state aid. And so in order to accommodate and to accomplish the objective of improving our operating position while still keeping our overall mill levy the same, part of the strategy would be shifting our mills. So in this instance, our current bond mill levy is 10.181 mills. We would be lowering the bond fund mill levy by about 1.15 mills, and we'd be increasing then our LOB mill levy by the equivalent amount to generate the $1 million from going from 30 to 33%. And so the shifting of the mills from bond and interest to local option budget allows us to maintain the same total district mill levy. And you can see, I think it's important that when we consider an LOB strategy of going to 33%, it's just authority only. Each year, just as the Board of Education currently does, each year, the district and the board will have to decide how much of that authority you need to use for budgeting purposes. Okay, so again, it's something that's evaluated every single year based upon budget needs. You'll see in a memo, and I don't know if you have that on a screen handy, but there's a memo called Local Option Budget, and you can see what there's really 2 strategies. One's the mill levy strategy, right? So it shows you where your current mill levies are for each of your funds for the current budget year. And then it shows the projected, again, assuming that the Board of Education's goal for the 21-22 budget is to maintain a similar or the same mill levy as the current year. And it shows where those mills are adjusted to, okay? So you can see that there's a change, right? You can see the change in the bond fund mill levy drops, and a corresponding increase happens in the local option budget while still keeping the total district mill levy the same. So financially, again, it's a mill levy neutral option. And we're leveraging dollars. We're leveraging dollars in our operating budget. And by leveraging those dollars, we're transferring the tax revenues that would have been collected in bond and interest. We're moving those to our local option budget, which gives us $1 million of tax revenues. And then we're leveraging that to get another $4 million of state aid in our operating budget. As you may say, well, why does this happen? How are we in this position where we can manage these mill levies? You may recall, I'm going to take you back a few years. In 2016, when the district approved the last bond issue, as part of that bond issue, we deposited funds into what's called a premium fund. That premium fund is solely used for mill levy management purposes, meaning that it can't be spent on operating items. It can only be spent on bond repayment and or capital projects. The intent of that premium fund from the very beginning has always been to use it for mill levy management purposes. And so part of this strategy involves taking the balance of that premium fund and transferring it into our bond fund and using it for that mill levy management purpose, which allows us, in conjunction with a potential refinancing, to maintain and lower that mill levy by 1 mil and still maintain a very, very healthy fund balance in that fund, in the bond fund. So it's a dual strategy with a number of different moving pieces, but the primary objective is how do we improve our operating position by providing more resources for operating purposes while still maintaining a constant and stable bond and interest mill levy. So that is the local option budget portion. The other portion, and again, this is a continuation of our conversations over the last few years related to interest rates and market conditions. We are monitoring market conditions again very closely. And based upon bonds that are still eligible to be refinanced, by refinancing those bonds, the estimated savings, which you'll see on a summary page, is around $4.3 million. And the rate on those bonds that are still eligible to be refinanced is a 4.32%. And the projected rate, and again, this was presented to the Finance Committee, so it's a little bit dated in terms of interest rate, but the projected rate was 2.15%. So we are monitoring this. It's something that we probably would not move forward with right away, given what's happened with interest rates here recently, but it's something that we're monitoring very closely. And at the time that the market improves to the point where we can achieve savings objectives, we'd be back before you to share with you a market update and the process to proceed. So I'm going to pause there. I know that's a lot of information, but I think that the concept of these options is to give the board budgetary flexibility while not requiring any sort of additional tax or mill levy increase to patrons in the school district. So I'm just going to pause there for a moment. I know there were some very good questions during the committee meeting, and I'm sure there were some more this evening as well.
Great, thank you, Mr. Avey. Are there questions from the board members or Dr. Yeager, anything else you want to add from the Finance Committee? Sorry, we can't hear you, Dr. Yeager.
What was meant by not necessarily raising the levy. And I think that was the point of discussion, to get clearer information to how to explain this information to the layperson or to those who are listening, how it could possibly increase if decided on the impact to their taxes. So that's what was additional discussion during the Finance Committee, to ensure that all board members had clear understanding of what exactly it meant and the impact it would have on our community.
This is Dr. Nguyen, and I am opposed to the recommendation because, on the one hand, the recommendation says approve the refinancing of bonds and change the LOB authority to 33. if I heard you correctly, Dustin, you separated those two items. Is that correct?
Yeah, Dr. Winslow, I think it's a combination strategy. They both do not need to happen at the exact same time. Obviously, we don't want to refinance if it doesn't make sense to refinance. And refinancing, moving it to 33% is not immediately contingent upon refinancing. They're both strategies that work long-term, but they do not need to be done at the exact same time. We wanted to share with you that information so that long-term, both strategies would be implemented and would be helpful to the district from a budgetary perspective.
Okay, thank you. And this is in general, I think I said this 2 years ago when we were at Northwest. The response that staff gave back to me 2 weeks ago that they were offended by a suggestion, a proposal to freeze non-essential for a month so that the board can review budgets. Well, at this point, I'm offended that you tell us you've been talking to staff for 2 or 3 months, and then you come to us, this is the first time we've had a finance committee, so that step is the first time, but you come to us with then a 10-minute explanation of a major move. Now, as I understand it, it's an accounting maneuver. You call it strategy. What it appears that every time you come to us, it's when it's kind of like you want to buy down the equity in the house. And am I incorrect with that concept, with that similarity?
Well, Dr. Wynn, this is a strategy that a lot of school districts in Kansas are utilizing. They're trying to figure out how do we improve our operating position while not increasing the mill levy to its patrons. And so again, this is a strategy that we thought would be helpful for the finance committee to review as well as the board, as you're thinking about where you stand from a budgeting perspective and making sure you're maximizing operating dollars for educational purposes.
And thank you for that answer, but is the answer to my question correct? Like getting equity out of your house?
I don't necessarily follow it that way. I think of it as we're shifting revenues from one source to another source. I don't think it's equity at all. I think it's you have resources that you would be using for bond interest, and you have capacity in your bond fund to transfer those revenues out of that bond fund and put them into another resource to leverage more resources for operating purposes. So no, I would say I do not see it that way.
Okay, thank you for that. And then secondly, help me understand how when you raise your taxing authority from 30%, 30 cents out of a dollar, to 33%, 33 cents out of a dollar, help me understand how that does not, that first, it's not an increase in taxing authority, just on that level.
Well, so it's if you're looking at it as a budget as a whole, right? So the total district mill levy, the mill levy
No,
was...
excuse me, no. Just answer the simple question. Moving from 30% to 33%, is that not an increase in taxing authority? Not the impact and not what you're playing with it but is that an increase?
So if we were just looking at, Dr. Wynn, if we were looking at that solely as the only thing that we were doing, absolutely. You're increasing your tax revenues in that fund. And so again, if there's an objective to go to 33% and we want to accomplish that increase in revenues in that fund by reducing it in another fund, this is the option that we're sharing, because I think most boards don't want to be in a position where they're increasing the mill levy without figuring out how to offset that increase someplace else. But yes, we are increasing the authority, which is increasing taxes in the local option budget fund. And we're trying to offset that increase in that fund by lowering the taxes that are levied in the bond fund.
Now, can you make that shift from that, did you say $1 million from the bond fund? Can you make that shift to and essentially you're dealing with an operating fund, correct?
Yes, ma'am. So in your budget, so if you think about your budget for the 21-22 school year, the mill levy in the bond fund would be lowered. The mill levy in the LOB would be increased by that same amount. Okay, so the overall mill levy would be the same. And by doing that, we increase our operating capacity by about $5 million.
Can you transfer that without increasing your tax authority?
Well, no, because you wouldn't have the authority, right? So if you couldn't transfer it because you don't have the authority to transfer it to LOB because you're at 30% right now.
Why? Why don't you have that authority at 30%?
Because you're already maxed out at 30%. So your current mill levy in your local option budget equates to already the 30% max.
Correct.
So we could not do any of that. We could not shift that without the district approving going to a higher percentage, which gives you a larger authority.
Okay, so Mr. Lopez and board, excuse me, just my overall concern is that I've been on the board for 6 years. I've never heard of a premium account. When you came to us two years ago, you never mentioned a premium account, did you? Excuse me.
Well, Dr. Wynn, we talk about this every year during the budget process internally, and it's something that we manage. It is part of the 2016 bond issue that was approved, and those funds that were generated from the bond sale went into the premium account to be used for mill levy management purposes.
Okay, thank you. I'm asked, the question was, when you came to us, excuse me, 2 years ago, talking about refinancing, did you mention did you provide the board with any information about a premium account?
No, because it wasn't necessarily relevant to the refinancing. It's more for mill levy management purposes. It's not refinancing correlated.
Okay, thank you. Well, moving forward, I would think that the board would want an ongoing information from our bond counsel instead of every time there seems to be an opportunity to draw some funds out. That's the only time we see you. So that's my opposition. Not that I want to see you regularly, but my banker seemingly would provide me with more info than just when they want to. Again, I appreciate it. It is an opportunity. I understand that. It is an opportunity to get revenue out of one account, get state aid to match it. I understand that. But the caveat for me is that you must raise the taxing authority. And that's where I oppose that. But I oppose the fact that we never hear from you until there's an opportunity to pull money out. So thank you, Mr. Avery, and thank you, Mr. Lowe.
One, I would like to say thank you, Dustin, for coming. I feel like it's important to understand that although there may be some disagreement, it's important that we use proper words to build up and not tear down when talking to our guests. I think it's also important that when Dustin comes to us, it's on the recommendation, not on his own, that he works with our chief financial officer. The reason why we have a financial committee is for them to bring awareness and for us to make decisions based upon what the financial officer is currently monitoring. So it is not out of order for us to see him when the time is appropriate. So I believe that this conversation is appropriate for discussion in the finance committee. Those on there, that's why we decided to bring it forward. I think it's important for us to also make considerations. This is the first time that it is brought to us. So this was beyond a 10-minute discussion because, again, it came through the finance committee first. And therefore, after this, the expectation is that other board members ask the appropriate questions, get a little more information for us to make a decision on this issue that was brought before us.
So I saw Ms. Humphreys has a question. So Ms. Humphreys, thank you, Dr. Yeager and Dr. Wynn.
Yeah, Dustin, I have a question for you. I'm not a money person, so excuse if it sounds kind of a roundabout. Do we need to refinance the bonds to do this shuffling of our mill levies?
I'm sorry.
Hold on, Jamie.
Humphreys, you cut out.
Oh, okay. Can you hear us now? Okay.
Yes.
Start over, Ms. Humphries, thank
Okay.
you.
Do we have to refinance the bonds to be able to do this shuffling of the mill levies?
Ms. Humphries, no, the answer to that is no. These are two strategies that work well together, but they are not contingent upon each other at this time.
Okay, so then my second question is if we did go ahead and essentially it's 3 different pots of money, the capital outlay, if I understand correctly, we can't touch it. We can't exceed that 8% or the 8 mills or whatever. But we can shuffle back and forth between the local option and the bonded interest a little bit. So if next year, if we wanted to, or if we needed to, could we go back to the 10.1 in the bonded interest and back to the 11.4 in the local option?
Yes, ma'am, you can. And that's, I think the key part of this is that it's just the authority. The board still has the budgetary authority during the budget process to set the mill levy and to set how much authority you use. And that authority can change each and every year, and you can move mills out of local option budget and put them back into bond and interest. That is completely an option and something that could be open for discussion every single budget year.
But essentially, if we do that this year, we get $4 million more from the state to add to our operating budget. Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Without having to raise any taxes on our community.
That's correct. We're just going to shift what we have in the bond and interest and put that tax revenue from bond and interest into local option budget so that the total tax is a neutral impact. And by doing that, we do leverage an additional $4 million of state aid.
To help our kids in our schools. Okay, thank you.
Ms. Page?
When do we ever pay the bond off? I mean, I'm not an expert, and I'm just trying to figure it out. When do we ever pay this off? Because we keep juggling and moving. I'm just asking, I don't know. Does it ever get paid off? I asked the question.
Yeah,
I think it's a fair question. I don't know. I'm just trying to figure it out.
Ms. Page, it's a really good question. And so when we did the original bond issue in 2016, at that point, it was communicated to voters that bond issue would be a 30-year bond issue.
Okay.
And so the final payment on those existing bonds is 2046.
Okay, now if we do what you say, when will we be through by 2046? Or does that push us back? From the little bit I know, when you refinance something, if it's a car, a house, whatever, it's gonna give you more time. You might pay lower, but you're still adding on 2 or 3 years. So I don't know, you're the expert, help me understand.
Well,
So what does it mean to us?
I appreciate that question, Ms. Page, and that's a really good question. So anytime we do a refinancing, we're doing one of two things. We're not extending the term at all, we're keeping the term the same. And in fact, a lot of times what we're doing is because we're saving interest costs, we're actually able to prepay our bonds earlier. And so there is no extension of the term at all. And in fact, under Kansas law, bond issues cannot exceed 30 years in length. And so there's no statutory authority to go beyond 2046 with any sort of refinancing bonds. It's really only interest cost savings when it's appropriate.
Okay, and you said today that we wouldn't do it now because the market isn't good. So when do you expect, or your prediction of when it would, if it took place?
I wish I knew, Ms. Page. I really wish my crystal ball wasn't broken. So I don't know specifically when that's going to be. I think it's a matter of putting ourselves in position so that if the market does come back, and it may not, right? So the reality is the market may not come back to where it does make sense, and that's just the way the market works. But if it does come back, We just want to make sure we're putting the district in the best position possible to maximize the savings to the district.
Okay.
Dustin, I have two other questions, please. One, you say other districts are doing this. What other districts have gone to 33 and then moved back to 30?
I don't know specifically where they are in their budget process or what their strategies are after they get the authority or if they go to the full 33%. I think it's up to the boards each year to decide how much of that authority they use. But there are districts that go to the 33% and shift mills down in one fund to increase them in another. That strategy is very common. But to tell you which specific districts alter their authority or their change their budget each year, I can't answer that.
Correct, because it's very unlikely. Once a taxing entity goes to another number, it's very seldom one would advise them to come back. The second question is, what is then the cost of this transaction?
Typically,
By council.
Yeah, so all your costs of transaction, you look at all your costs are around typically about 1.25% of any amount financed.
So that would be what?
Well, in this case, you're about your total fees are about $1 million of total fees to save about $4.4 million. I'm saying
to Piper, whatever.
Total fees. All fees, all transactional fees are approximately $1 million. It's about 1.1% to 1.25% of the total amount financed have been your typical fees for bond transactions.
For this specific transaction, what would be the fee to your company?
You're right around $750,000 to market, sell, and underwrite the bonds when it's appropriate. Again, I think, Dr. Wood, at this point, there's no transaction because the market does not, the market right now is not to a situation where it makes sense to proceed. And so we're just in a position where we're on a wait and hold approach. And when the market does improve, or if it improves, we obviously need to be back and talking to your staff and finance committee about where the market is at that particular time.
So the change in the LOB would have to be published and would have to be approved essentially by this is a Tracy question. Has to be published, and if there is opposition, then what happens? And what is the percentage of opposition?
Correct. Dr. Wynn, if the board elects to change the LOB authority, we do need to publish the paper. There is a certain time frame that the community has to oppose it. And then it would come back to the board for final approval. The main thing, though, is that the board will approve the final mill levy. So even without the refinancing of the bonds or the change in mill levy, that eventually you all will approve the final mill levy, however that plan pans out. So, yes, they all work together, but if we're not able to refinance the bonds prior to the budget approval, then we would not increase the mill levy in the LOB. It would just give us the authority to do so if all of that works out.
And if we were to increase it, we could always decrease it back as well.
Right, it just gives us the authority. You guys all, decide the final mill levy approval.
Yeah, but so, and I'm just trying to make sure I'm following along. So we're providing the authority to be able to increase this. If we provide that authority, the potential of taxpayers' dollars could go up. And the district from this reinvestment would earn approximately, I'm gonna use the amount I think I heard, $4 million. So really and this is just, it sounds like a direct impact to our community. So I'm trying to figure out the benefit to our community.
The taxpayers of the district will not, our taxes will not increase. The state will give us $4 million more because our LOB percentage goes up. But our district mill levy, our total mill levy does not go up. We're just taking, we have 3 pots of money, and we're increasing what's in one pot and decreasing in the third pot. The middle pot's staying the same. And because we're increasing the first pot, the state has to give us some more money. But our district mill levy, 49.650, stays the same no matter what we do. We're just making the state give us more money because it's going into our operating budget instead of our bond and interest. The state won't give us that money if it's in bond and interest. But if it's in the LOB, they have to give us that $4 million.
Mr. Covington?
That is correct. Well said.
Great job, Janie.
It sounds confusing, but when you put those 3 pots of money out there,
Layman's language, that's good.
that's what it is, basically.
So Randy, we will be discussing this. This is the first time that it has been brought to the full board. So I would ask that we would send additional questions before it's on our agenda for next time to make, so that we can get additional informed clarification and continue on with our meeting.
Clarification. Thank you, Dr. Yeager. Thank you, Janie. Clarification. So we are not approving anything. I know our agenda has an approval tonight, but I just want to make sure. This is just information tonight, right, Dr. Yeager, from the Finance Committee?
Right. We don't have to approve it tonight.
Okay. Thank you.
Because I want to make sure that everybody's clear on it, and then we can approve it next go round.
Okay. Thank you. So I will go ahead and keep us moving forward. Thank you, Mr. Avey, for the information, Mr. Covington and team. If you have additional questions, board members, please send those mine in this page's way so that we can address those questions. And I'm sure the Finance Committee will continue to work through this, and this will come back forward at the appropriate time. So thank you.
The next one relates to the annual leave payout. The board Finance Committee was in agreement to what will be presented.
Thank you, Dr. Yeager. Again, good evening. Board policy GARH, attendance, absences, leaves, and vacations, states that vacation leave can be carried over for 1 year. Due to the COVID-19 situation, many 261-day staff have not used their vacation days as they were needed to report to work during this crisis. There are 360 employees that will lose vacation days based on the current policy. The district recommendation is to allow for staff who have 5 vacation days in excess of board policy to elect a payout of up to 5 days of annual leave and carry over the remaining vacation days for 1 year only. Any days paid would be deducted from their leave. There would be 249 employees who would be eligible for a maximum payout cost of $283,393. Staff would be able to opt in and choose the number of annual leave days up to a maximum of 5 days that will be paid. Supervisors and staff will be notified that all employees need to utilize their vacation days during the 2021-2022 school year, or the days will be lost next year. This was discussed in the Finance Committee and recommended we bring it to the full board for consideration. I appreciate your comments and thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kaiser. Dr. Yeager, anything else before questions from the board?
No, we were in agreement with it based on the information presented. We felt like this was a good option presented that would be useful to the district.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or thoughts from the board?
If there are no questions, I'd like to make a motion that we move forward with the recommendations from Ms. Tracy.
Second.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, Ms. Smith, roll call, please.
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Janie, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Dr. Nguyen,
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
and Dr. Yeager.
Dr. Yeager, yes.
Thank you.
Great,
The
motion
next
passes.
item, sorry.
Nope, go ahead, Dr. Yeager, sorry.
Okay, the last item was the School for Fair Funding. And we, again, we're in support of this. Dennis will, or the finance will present.
The School for Fair Funding is the organization that lobbies for us at the state for funding for schools. And we've been a part of the Schools for Fair Funding Coalition since FY16. We received an invoice from the Schools for Fair Funding for the FY21 school year and the FY22 school year for a total of $48,017.31. And it was brought forth from the Finance Committee that we should pay the invoice and stay a member of the coalition, but that takes a vote by the entire board.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and second, further discussion? Ms. Smith, roll call vote, please.
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Janie, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Dr. Nguyen,
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
Dr. Yeager.
Dr. Yeager, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Covington. Motion passes. All right, so continuing on with our agenda, we have reached executive session.
And staff, if you want to leave the meeting, you're free to do so now. Thank you.
Thank you, staff, for joining us tonight. Great to see you. Have a good evening. I would entertain a motion to recess to executive session to discuss hearing officer reports pertaining to employee termination appeals under the non-elected personnel exception Tacoma, going in at 7:30 and coming out at 7:35,
So moved.
Second.
with potential action to follow. I'm sorry. Moved and seconded.
Yeah.
Ms. Smith?
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Dr. Nguyen,
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
and Dr. Yeager.
Dr. Yeager, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. A motion to come back into open session, please?
So move.
Oh, are we ready? Sorry. Okay.
I second it.
Moved and seconded. Sorry about that, y'all. Ms. Smith, go ahead. Roll call.
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Janie, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy Lopez, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Dr. Nguyen,
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
Dr. Yeager.
Dr. Yeager, yes.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. We're back in open session. Would entertain a motion to accept the hearing officer's report.
So move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Ms. Smith?
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Janie, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Dr. Nguyen,
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
Dr. Yeager.
Dr. Yeager, yes.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. I would now entertain a motion to recess to executive session to discuss matters of non-elected personnel in order to protect the privacy interests of the parties involved under coma. Going in at 7:40 and coming out at 8:10.
So move.
Second.
Ms. Smith?
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda?
She may have left.
Already gone over.
okay. Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Yes, please.
Randy Lopez,
Randy, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Yes.
Dr. Nguyen,
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
Dr. Yeager.
Dr. Yeager, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Would entertain a motion to come back into open session, please?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Smith?
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Yes.
Dr. Nguyen,
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
Dr. Yeager.
Dr. Yeager, yes.
Thank you.
Would entertain a motion to go back into executive session, going in at 8:14 and coming out at 8:34.
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
Ms. Smith?
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Yes.
Dr. Nguyen,
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
Dr. Yeager.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Come back into open session, please.
So moved.
Second.
All right, Ms. Smith?
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Janie Humphries,
Yes,
Randy Lopez,
Randy, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page, Dr. Nguyen,
Dr. Nguyen, yes.
Dr. Yeager.
Dr. Yeager, yes.
Great, thank you. We're back in open session. And just thank you to the board members and to our staff. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.